This is a demonstration of the new ability in NX2312 for feature templates based on a point placement to instantiate multiple instances of the feature template at the same time. So to start this off, there are a few examples here. This first one here is a simple example where we've got a simple feature template that is a compound hole here. It's a counterbore hole in this case that we want to place. So initially these feature templates were created to do one at a time, right? So this particular one, you'll notice the point up here has a selector that allows us to select one point, right? And then it moves on, right? And if we select a different point, it replaces that point with the other point and moves on, right? So we can select a body and say okay, and this will go and create one instance of this hole. Okay, now what we're going to do instead, I'm going to undo this here, is come and edit this feature template and make a change based on a new setting that we have here in NX2312. If we go into the user interface for this template, we have that point selector here that's right at the top. This is the new option down here. That's an option here to enable a multiple location pointer selector. So right now the UI for this feature template is selecting a single point. And there are cases where that's what you want, is just a single point at a time. If it is a kind of UDF like this, or feature template like this, where we want to be able to potentially put in multiple instances of this, kind of all in one shot, then we can change this from false to true. And when we do this, the selector here is going to change from an individual single point selector to a multiple point selector, as you'll see here. So this now is going to let us select one point if we want, or multiple points if we want. So we'll save, finish this here. We'll save this template in this new state. There we go. And then let's take a look at it again. So we've changed the one in the library here now to accommodate the multiple selections. So as we bring this out now, you'll see that we have that multiple selector available, which is nice. And so within this state, we can come, for instance, and grab maybe, let's grab those ones on the top, right? If we grab these four here, for instance, we could go and put in four at a time. These top four here, for instance. Okay. Now, the whole command actually that this is based on, I'm going to undo this here, is actually smart enough here that if we come in and select actually all of these points here on these three faces, and select the underlying body here, of course, it's smart enough that as it puts in each of these instances, it's going to look at the point, it's going to look at the associated body relative to that, and figure out the local normals here for these holes, each of them individually, and instantiate each of these individually in the right orientation or correct orientation. Okay, so as we say okay here, we'll see them come in on all three faces here in the correct orientations, which is quite cool. And this is, of course, creating for us individual instances of these feature templates, right? These are not a pattern here. These are being created as individual instances. Patterning can certainly work with feature templates. So if we wanted to have four instances on the top here, for instance, that were related to each other, had one instance that was then patterned such that if we edit the one instance, all four of them update, you can certainly build the model that way, right? But this particular method here, where we select individual points, is going to create individual independent copies of this feature template at each of those points. Okay, so that's one example. All right, let me find another example here. That is this flap assembly. And this one here, this is another example that pattern might be better for. But here we have a plate, one of the parts, one of the skins here on our flap, and some locations. I'm going to make this the work part because that's where I'm going to put these holes. But similarly here, I have some rivet holes that are a countersunk hole, or countersunk hole here that we're going to use for rivets. And similarly here, I can pull that out, have a very similar setup here where I can say, I'm going to go select that set of points, 31 of those points along there, and similarly the target body where those are going to go in. And as we do that, then we can see that we can very quickly create that set of points that go all along there. And these will put in then individual instances at each of those locations for us, right, across this skin. So that's this one is an example where we may want to put those in following a curve out there. There's some ways to pattern along a curve and so forth. But again, an aerospace example here that shows using the same concept to put in lots and lots of features on an irregular shape all at once. Speaking of irregular shapes, this is, I guess, not particularly irregular, but another interesting example here is this golf ball example, right? So this is one where we, of course, are putting a whole bunch of dimples onto a ball. This feature goes and subtracts a sphere out and based on a point location. These point locations in this particular case were created using an algorithmic feature. So this feature here is using an algorithmic modeling feature to go out and implement an algorithm called the Fibonacci sphere that goes out there, and based on an input sphere and a number of points. In fact, if we edit this, we can see the UI for this. This will go out and choose, say, 250 points here, and the radius of the sphere that we're putting those on, and go out and place those points out there for us, right? So this will build our set of points out here for us, and then we'll use this dimple feature template to go in and subtract away the dimple. And at the very end of this model, we have one edge blend feature there at the end that goes and blends all of the edges on this one here. This one takes a minute to instantiate all of these guys, so I won't do this one live, but you see the concept of where that's going. A very similar example that I'll show you live is this one that is a smaller number of those holes. So here my son has gotten me into playing pickleball, and so if we're making a regulation pickleball here, we can do a very similar thing. So here as well, we have start with a sphere. This one has a shell. It's hollow on the inside, and again, we've used that exact same algorithmic feature here to implement a set of points. In this case, inside the sphere, just a little bit inside the wall. And so similarly with this one, we can go to our reuse library and grab our dimple. And this one, again, we'll pick our target body. We'll select points. Here again, we can select all of those. Control A actually would do the same thing, pick all of those. So regulation ball is going to have these 40 holes. And these will be 7.1 millimeter holes, apparently, according to the pickleball standard. And so as we say OK here, we'll see it go out and put those in there. These we're doing with a spherical dimple, but we're actually centering the sphere in the inside of the wall here. And so these are going to look a lot like holes. We could do this with regular cylindrical holes as well if we want to, just for fun. I'm using the exact same one. So these are not exactly cylindrical faces inside here. They're actually spherical. But then we'll go and do a chamfer on these faces out there, and go out. We can really pick all the body edges on this guy. I'm going to pick an edge. There we go, and that'll go out and build the final chamfers for this part. Okay, so again, we're going to do this by using the algorithmic feature to create all of the points in this case, and then as we instantiate this using that select all, it's going to go and create independent instances of this feature template there based on each of those points that we've just selected, right? And here again, in this case, if we look at this example in the reuse library, we'll see that same concept. We're going to edit this dimple feature. We'll see that same concept in the user interface, that for this select point widget right here, you see we have that multiple point selector, and that particular one is there because we've set this to true. Okay, this enable multiple location point selector. So again, new option available in this latest December 2023 release, NX 2312, and I hope you find that useful.